Hi, thanks for joining me. This is Jessie, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Storyteller by Dave Grohl. If you watched my Saturday Storytime, the last Saturday Storytime that I posted, I did read an excerpt from this book, and it was an absolutely inspiring book. It was a phenomenal book, but I do want to read a certain section from this book. And if you watch a lot of BookTube, you'll know who this is directed at. I hid in our dressing room for fear that I would get eaten alive. Plus, I couldn't bear to walk to the stage and take a frightened glimpse of the certain fate that awaited us in that undulating mosh pit of leather and spikes. So, the book starts off, and it makes, okay, so there's so much going on with this book and me, I swear. First of all, I got it as a Christmas present from my Secret Santa at work, which I later found out was Anita. So thank you, Anita. It was a great book. I absolutely adored it. I was so excited to get it. So Dave Grohl, his lust for life was evident before Nirvana. After Nirvana and Kurt's suicide, I think that his life probably could have gone either way. His addiction to coffee is clearly evident, and his awareness of how his personality is addictive probably saved him from going into the downward spiral that he could have gone after Kurt's death. He did have some bouts of depression after that, which is to be expected. But he arose from the throes of that tragedy with an even greater lust for life, and it is absolutely beautiful to read about. He lives his life in the good times because who knows what tomorrow brings. He has no negative approach to life. He will never surrender, and he makes that very clear through this book. He is also, I don't know if you've ever seen The Rise of the Guardians. It's an animated movie, and it's about Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, and there's this part in the movie where the Santa Claus is talking to who eventually becomes Jack Frost, and he's asking him a question about what keeps them going, and he's showing him a Matryoshka doll, and in the middle of the Matryoshka doll, the very bottom one, is a baby, and Jack Frost doesn't get it, and Santa Claus goes, "It's wonder." And you get that through this entire book, because no matter whether it's when Dave Grohl is first starting out and he gets invited to play drums for Iggy Pop, or whether he's already made it and he sees Elton John, he never loses that, oh my goodness, there's my hero wonder. And it's absolutely adorable and charming to read. This book had me laughing, it had me in tears. And more importantly, it reminded me of so many awesome bands that I've forgotten about that I used to listen to. If you read this book, do what I didn't do. Keep a notebook handy and just write down all these bands that you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I haven't thought about them in like decades. It's really fun. He sounds like a really fun guy to hang out with, and I wonder if his rock star status is awkward for him when he meets fans in Reverie, because like I said, he never loses his sense of wonder and awe. He becomes that fan in Reverie when he meets a new hero. I mean, and this is a guy who has dinner with Paul McCartney on a regular basis. But he still, when he meets somebody new that he hasn't met before, he hasn't played with before, and he gets to play with them, or he meets them, or they come to dinner, it's really fun to read about how he reacts to them. He's, like I said, he played with Iggy Pop at a show, impromptu. He's played at the White House for 2 different presidents with 2 different political parties. And it's so nice to read that he still turns into that gushing fan when he meets somebody he's always looked up to. Reading that his mother was a school teacher and that she allowed him to drop out of school to pursue his dreams of being a drummer, and this is when he first started with the band Scream. I had to stop and really do some deep diving and consider whether or not that would ever be something I would allow my children to do. And I'm not even a teacher. my father instilled a deep desire for learning, for education in me from a very young age. Growing up, he was very adamant that I get A's and B's all the time. I mean, it wasn't like, oh my goodness, I didn't get an A and I got whooped or anything like that, but he instilled that love for education and learning in me. And so to consider the fact that that way of life might not be something that my children choose, I don't know if I could do it. Like, she saw in him something that maybe he didn't even see in himself at that age. And that was that he had the talent, he had the drive, he had the focus to make it in what he wanted to do, which was drumming, and it had nothing to do with higher education. And so when I consider, you know, what if one of my children, what if Vinny comes up to me and says, I want to run away, you know, with a band and, you know, play the drums or play guitar. You know, what if Sophie has some other, you know, dream in mind that doesn't include, you know, higher education? I don't know if I would have the altruism and strength to let them go and do what they love. And I hate to say it, and I'm glad I'm not in that position, because I couldn't tell you what I would do. I mean, and he strove, you know, he did the hard things. He went on the road. He had a per diem that he had to abide by, which was $7.50 a day, and that had to get him his food, his drinks, his weed, and he did it, you know, and then he eventually made it. Obviously, I mean, he's, you know, this phenomenal rock star, you know, and I see where he's ended up. But then also, like, the mom side of me is like, do you know how many people don't end up, you know, in that position? How many people go down, you know, terrible roads trying to achieve their dreams? And so, I mean, it definitely gives you something to think about. I loved this book, and I know I've said that, you know, plenty of times throughout this video, but I would recommend reading this if you were a fan of Nirvana, if you're a fan of the Foo Fighters, if you're a fan of Rockstar Memoirs, if you're a fan of gushing fans. It was really interesting to read. His hopping all over the world, starting a family, incorporating his family into his rock star life is just an absolutely amazing and charming book. Again, thank you to Anita for getting this for me for Christmas. I really appreciate it. It actually makes me want to go back and read some of the memoirs that I have sitting on my shelf. So, namely the Steve Tyler and Ozzy Osbourne ones. So, I did see one recently. What was it? Nikki Sixx. Nikki Sixx has a memoir out also, or is coming out with a memoir. I'm not sure which one it is. I didn't look too deeply into it because I'm currently reading like 4 different books. So, but Nikki Sixx is another one that I want to read also. If you want to hear more about this book, Mike's Book Reviews did do a review of the book as well, which I thought was awesome. Also, I was so excited to see he did the review, and I'm not the only person who's geeking out about this book coming out. But thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe below.